Hello. I just wanted to make a video. I've got some thoughts about the budget hack and Fantasy World Cup and wildcard things that I wanted to share. Some strategy ideas. I just made a video and something went wrong and it didn't really record properly. I think I may have video problems, so I don't know whether the video is going to record properly, and you might just have a bunch of weird stills where it keeps freezing. Possibly, I don't know. But hopefully you'll be able to hear my voice anyway, so I'm just going to give this a go because I just want to get a load of thoughts out. I wanted to talk about the budget hack thing, and then talk about maybe some strategy elements afterwards. The budget hack thing is very, very interesting, and when it kind of became aware that it's a thing that can work, there was a kind of interesting reaction on Twitter. Yes, interesting reaction. I think a lot of people kind of just embraced it and just like, oh wow, cool, let's just make the most of it. But there was this sense in me as well, I felt, of like this kind of uneasiness of like, is it cheating, or is it supposed to be like this, or is this okay to do this kind of thing? And so I wanted to just talk about that because I don't think it is technically cheating. I think what it is just a very poor game design, because this budget hack, you can do it totally within the limitations of the game. The game allows you to do this. There's nothing that stops you from doing it. Also, everybody in the whole game can do this. It's available for everybody to do, and I also don't think it's as undiscoverable as you might think, because if you imagine a casual person just coming up to their team, let's imagine that Messi got injured in a warm-up, and they think, oh, quick, I want to transfer him for Mbappe, but I need an extra million. I know, I'll transfer out Valencia, who got injured, and I'll get the money and I'll upgrade Messi to Mbappe. It might be a very natural thing to think when you just look at your team, and I think a lot of casuals might just stumble upon it and be like, oh, that's weird, I've got -1 million budget. So it's a weird quirk in the game, but I don't think it's cheating. I think it feels a bit cheaty because we're also used to games being made a certain way, where you just have your budget and that's it. But I think it's just a poorly designed game. If the makers of the game were to come out with a statement, I don't know whether they have or not, but if they did, and they said, look, this is not meant to be the way it's meant to be, we're trying to fix it, please don't do it, I wouldn't do it. I'd just be like, okay, fine. Even though I know lots of people probably still would do it, and it would kind of ruin the game a bit because they'd probably beat you. I probably wouldn't do it, but I don't think they have said that. And so this is the way I view it. As far as I'm concerned, it's a poorly designed game. It's possible. I don't even know what the makers think, but it's possible they actually left it in there as a hidden Easter egg for people to kind of realise. I don't know what their intentions are with this budget hack quirk in the game. Possible that it was somewhat intentional. I think that's unlikely, given how scrappy and error prone the whole all the rules have been up until this point. But could have been. But I think basically it's a poorly designed game. An ideal game, if I was designing this game for everybody, you want an ideal World Cup fantasy game for the whole family to play, and it usually a good game would be a good balance of rewarding football knowledge, but then there would be a dollop of strategy, not too much, because we like a bit of strategy, a bit of wild cards, when to play your chips, all that stuff, and then a dollop of luck, and you have like a nice balance of these things. But right now with this game, it's like the strategy element has like ballooned, so that you need like PhD levels of intelligence to kind of figure it all out. And so the people who will probably do best in this game now are the ones who know how to game the system the best. Probably, not necessarily, but probably, all the people that have these over budgets are probably going to have a benefit. So that's not the ideal game, because, kids are going to miss out. It's not the ideal way to play the game. And I think there's a lot of purists out there who look at that and think, well, I don't want to play them. And that's fine. I have sympathy for that. Like, that it is wrong. But then at the same time, it feels a shame for people to miss out on this game. It's a game. It's there for us. It's free, and it's like it feels a shame to miss out on it because of this feeling like it's not meant to be like that. When actually, my feeling is like I just want to embrace it. Like, okay, so it's not the most ideal game, but it's still a free game. And if I was designing a game for people like me, not for everybody, but for people just like me, I'd design it exactly like this. Probably I would leave this feature in. Because for people like me, I love this. I love this fact that I have to kind of figure out all the strategy of how to do my transfers so I can actually maximize my budget. And I like that it's on the fly. I like getting my teeth stuck into intellectual challenges. So that is exciting to me. So I'm like, my feeling is like, I'm just going to embrace this. Okay, it's not the perfect design game, but it is what it is. This is the game we got. Everything is not cheating. It's within the rules. The rules allow it. So I'm just going to smash it. I'm just going to be like, right, let's just let's see what I can do. Maximum carnage, maximum damage. Let's see how I can do. What will probably happen is all the people who don't exploit the money budget will just beat me anyway, which is, it's very generous pricing in this game anyway. But that is what I'm going to do. So, and also the other thing is like, how often do you get to play a fantasy game that has a little quirk like this in it? It's like, it's never going to happen again, probably. So I'm like, let's just have fun with it. That's my feeling. So I'm gonna give it a good go. And so I want to talk about strategy with these budget hacks. Sorry, I always get out of breath when I'm talking. I don't talk that much normally. So budget hacks, and then the Wildcard Matchday 2. Budget hacks, basically, in a nutshell, the budget hack thing is you downgrade a locked player, upgrade an unlocked player. That's it. Downgrade a locked player, upgrade an unlocked player, in a nutshell. So here's my team. This is my actual team, not my experimental team. I haven't done anything with it yet. These players are all locked with the lock symbol. You would just sell one of these players for a cheaper player and get the money, the funds, the profits, and then use those profits to upgrade an unlocked player. And it works. I tried it again last night and it works. Some people are saying it's not working anymore, but I think it is. It seems to be. And you should do the transfer if you can at the same time, just in case they patch it up and it stops working. But I don't think they're going to. That's my feeling. I haven't seen any clues that they will, so it seems to work. That's what you do. And the way I think it works is because, I mean, they almost fixed it. You got your budget here. I'm on the wrong screen here, but what you do is you're borrowing the budget from Matchday 2. So as soon as Matchday 1 starts, it's like your team automatically is now in Matchday 2 and your budget is in Matchday 2, and all the changes you're making is all coming in Matchday 2. It just so happens that if you make a change to a player who hasn't yet played in Matchday 1 yet, they actually get your points for Matchday 1 as well. That's basically it. You're doing all these changes using your budget for Matchday 2. It's just that if that player is still playing in Matchday 1, they actually get the points for Matchday 1 as well, which is a bit weird. It's a bit hard to get your head around sometimes, but it works. So that's how it works. There are two ways to use the budget hacks. One with just your normal free transfers, and one is in the wildcard, which I'm going to get to in a minute, because you can do basically a massive budgetless wildcard team of maximum price. But with your free transfers, it's not necessarily the case that you should. This is necessarily the best use of your free transfers. It could be in certain times, probably, but there are other options with your free transfers. One, you could use your free transfers for rotation security. So just keep them on standby in case one of your players doesn't play. You could also use your free transfers for taking risks on players who might not play but have got a good upside. So you just just use them for that purpose. And then if they don't play, then you transfer them. You could also use your free transfers for preparing for the next match day. Is an option. Or you could combine these things and maybe do your budget hack trick at the same time as picking a player who's going to be good for the next match day. So you're preparing for the next match days too. So at the moment, I don't actually know who I would upgrade in my team, so I don't even know if I'm going to use the hack. The only other player is possibly Sosa. He's 3.5 million. I could upgrade him to Cancelo or some other 6 million player if I'm going to wildcard next week. I haven't actually fully decided yet, so I haven't got many options now. Perisic, Sosa. Perisic to De Bruyne, I could do. That's a possibility. I'll have a think. I've only got the rest of today to think about it, so I better hurry up. So that's budget hacks and free transfers, and then so that's that. The wild card. The idea in the wild card is to use it in match day 2. If you haven't seen Let's Talk FPL's video about this, he explains it very well, so I would watch that. But in a nutshell, if you play your wild card in match day 2, you get unlimited transfers before the match day starts, just like we did before match day 1. Lovely. And then when the match day starts, you've still got unlimited transfers. So you can, once your players play and they become locked, you can then transfer them to new players who you want for match day 3. So effectively you've got 2 wildcards, match day 2, and then you prepare yourself for match day 3. Sounds good, you know. The problem with that, though, is... Well, let me just say, so there are problems with that. I'm going to get onto that. You've basically got 3 options to play your wildcard. Either match day 2, 3, or quarterfinals, realistically. There's no point playing them anywhere else. I don't think. Quarterfinals, I think we can eliminate. I've eliminated because of the fact that you effectively get 9 free transfers of the quarterfinals anyway. You get unlimited at the start of round of 16. Then you get 4 during the round of 16, which you can use as the games play to prepare for quarterfinals. When people get knocked out, you just start transferring then. Then you get another 5 transfers at the start of the quarterfinals to repair more damage if players have gone out. So you've got 9 transfers to repair any damage from players who go out in the round of 16. I feel like that would be plenty. And I'm also just employing a crash and burn philosophy as I play. And so with the quarterfinals, I'm just going to predict. Generally, I'm going to predict a lot of teams that I think are going to go through. And I'm going to take some punts. And if they all go out, my season will be ruined, but that'll be all right. I'll be fine. So match day 2 or 3. So match day 2 is the popular choice. I was considering match day 3 though, because of the fact that match day 3 felt like a really easy, stress-free way to use the wildcard. Mainly, number one, because of the rotation ease. If there's going to be a lot of rotation in match day 3, which there probably is, you have no headache at all. You can just wait for the lineups, and you'll still have unlimited transfers with a wildcard on match day 3. Wait for the lineups, and then pick your teams there, and that should work out nice. It should work out pretty well. Nice and relaxed. Also, the budget hack would be nice and easy because you can just sell your lock players to any old cheap player. It doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about keeping them in your team for the next match day because you've got unlimited in round of 16 to just clean up all the mess. So it's a very nice, easy, relaxed way to use your wildcard. But I think I might actually swing back to match day 2. That probably is the best time to use it for maximum damage, because of the fact the big benefit of using your wildcard in match day 2 is you get a wildcard in match day 2, so that's good, and you can potentially use some budget hacks in match day 1, which I may do, so I can upgrade and then I can clean it up in match day 2. But yeah, so I don't know what to explain next. I should go back and explain the basic concept of using the budget hack in the wildcard for anyone that just didn't know this or hadn't figured it out. There's basically the theory would have been that in a wildcard, when you're using the budget hack, not just with one transfer but with your whole team, what you would do is you would choose a team for match day 2 or whatever, whenever you're using the wildcard, and it's budgetless. Just pick your team that you want. Don't worry about budget. You can go well over budget as much as you want. There it is. There's your team. Then you put them in order of their kickoff, first to last. and the player who is last, you sell that player to a cheaper player, as cheap as possible, who plays in the same fixture or later. That's very important so that you can upgrade them later. That's what you do, and then you see if you're in budget. If you're still over budget, you go to the second next player, and you transfer them to a cheap as possible player who plays in the same fixture or later, and keep going until you're within budget. Then you've got your team, and then as your expensive players start playing their games, once they're locked, you then transfer them to cheap players, take the profits from that, and fund and upgrade the cheap players who play last back to your originals, expensive players. You can just do that with a whole team and have a totally budgetless team. But there is a pickle that has potentially emerged there, because in this game it seems that locked transfers in can't be transferred back out again. So unlocked transfers in, you can transfer them back out, in and out as much as you want. So on a wild card, in and out, no problem. But once you make a locked transfer, so that's any player involving a locked player, and that player you bring in, you can't transfer back out again, it seems. Now, you might be able to on wildcard, I don't know, but I won't know this until I've tested it match day 2 after the kickoff starts. So it's a bit of a risk, and if you can do it, then great, but it's harder to do the budget hack, because you can't just go to any old cheap player. You can't downgrade your lock players to any old cheap player, because you're going to need that cheap player is going to be in your team for match day 3. But I think you can still do the wildcard match day 2 tactic, because all you're going to have to do is make sure that when you downgrade your expensive players to cheap players, you have to make sure these players are players who you still want in match day 3. And I mean, so this was why I was slightly siding towards a match day, wildcard match day 3. Just I think mainly because it felt easier. I didn't have to deal with this kind of like, it was stretching my brain a bit too much. But then I think I'm going to give it a go. I just need to figure it all out. But basically, match day 2. If you're going to do a match day 2 wildcard, I think this is what you got to do. All your well, let me just think. You want to have a load of expensive players who play at the start of the match day. In fact, what you're going to do, you're going to have a big team, aren't you? But I think you want to try and load as many of your expensive players at the start of the match day. And then in match day 3, you want to create a kind of list of cheap enabler types of players who you're likely to want, potentially might want for match day 3, who also play early in match day 2. Because then you'll know whether you're going to want them for match day 3 or not. So you've got this bucket of cheap enablers, possible options. If they play early in match day 2, then you can find out what their group position is, what their situation is, and whether you're likely to want them in match day 3 or not. And that's important, so that you have your expensive players who have played early in match day 2, your cheap enabler options who have played early in match day 2, and you can make the switch. And then you've got money in your budget. And then you can upgrade the rest of your cheap unlocked players in match day 2 back up to the expensive premium players. And then you'll end up in match day 3, and you can do that quite late. I think you can leave the rest once you've done those first few transfers, because I don't think you'll need many. The pricing in the game is quite generous. I think a budgetless team probably won't exceed much more than about 110 million anyway, maybe more, maybe less, because a lot of the best players are actually quite cheap anyway. But what was I saying? Yeah, so brain's gone dead. Oh man, brain's gone dead. One sec, let me pause it. I can't even fully remember. But so I think that was the basic gist though anyway. So expensive players go down to your cheap enabler pot that you've got ready, and they fund the rest of your team. You can upgrade the rest of your team fairly late when you need to. Yep. So make sure your cheap players who are going to be upgraded play late in the fixture as well, match day 2, so that you've got lots of time to wait until you upgrade them, and then it'll be in that last fixture. You'll only have transferred a couple of players to cheap players, maybe 2 or 3 cheap players for match day 3, and that will enable the rest of the team. Then the rest of your transfers preparing for match day 3, you can do probably in the last fixture, quite close to the end, when you've got the most information. So that's what you can do. But the problem with that is that the problem with match day 2 wildcard is you have to predict the lineups for match day 3 from a little bit further out. You'll have a bit of information because we'll have the results of match day 2, but it still might be a bit tricky to predict. And I wanted to try and get a sense of this, and I haven't really looked into it much, but I just looked at World Cup 2018, just a few of the teams, and looked at the rotation. So like England in 2018, we rotated almost our entire team in match day 3. There's only a few people stayed, John Stones and Pickford, I think it was. We won our first game, won our second, 6 points. Belgium did the same, 6 points. Went into the last game. I think England actually were kind of somewhat happy to be runners-up because it had a better route to the final. So that maybe applied to it. But they rotated like their entire team. So that's what they did. France had something similar. They had 6 points out of their first 2 games. That was their main team. Although they rotated somewhat even in those games. And then their last game was Denmark, who had 4 points. So there was still something to play for. They had to kind of win or draw, and they drew. But they rotated. It was kind of random. There was like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 players who stayed, and then all the rest were rotated. So kind of tricky to figure out with them. And then Brazil was another team I looked at, and they had to win their final game, and they played their full strength team pretty much every game. There's barely anybody changed. Just this Danilo to Fagner, don't know how to pronounce it. So there might be some teams that will be easier to predict, like spoiler alert if you haven't seen the Argentina game yet, shut your ears. But so Argentina players will probably be quite dead certs for the match day 3, but then other teams are going to be hard to predict. So that's the only thing about match day 2 wildcard that kind of makes me uneasy. Is like that could backfire. That could be a right old headache trying to predict players from that far out. But then again, you've still got 2 free transfers in match day 3, and you got your bench. That might be enough to catch the fallout. But I think if I don't have to do a wild card in match day 2, if my team is actually set up and it's looking fairly good, I might just leave it, and then just have a nice easy match day 3 wild card and catch all the rotation. But then the other downside about doing a match day 3 wild card is that the budget hack trick is going to be less powerful because a lot of the premium players are more likely to be rested. So there's that as well. So they're all the thoughts. So yeah, I probably will end up doing a match day 2 wildcard, and I'll just try and arrange the team and figure it out exactly right. Get the strategy right. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say in my brain. Yeah, I think that's it.